Hi, and welcome to Fabric Bites. It is June 2025, and I picked up these tools in a garage sale a couple weekends ago, and I threw them in a plastic bag, and I got a hole in the plastic bag, of course, because, this one poked right through it. And I could just throw them into a toolbox, but for me, this looks to like an opportunity to make something. And so I've been playing with this piece of denim here that I had in my stash, and it was actually this size, along with I had another piece that was bigger, but I had this piece already cut off. This stuff does fray a lot, so I went ahead and while I'm playing with it, I went ahead and zigzagged the edges, and you can kind of see it's still coming off a little bit, but not as bad as it was. So I had lots of different thoughts on what I want to do. First, I was like, well, I'm not limited to this size here. I mean, I could have cut it and done something different, but this is the size I have, so I've been playing with it. I thought I would fold it in like this and maybe have pockets, and I played with the idea of maybe doing an elastic loop and holding them in that way, and then I went with, okay, well, what if I did something like fold it in half like this, and then bring it up like this, and then it would go like this, and I have them on each side. So I've been playing with this just a bit to try to figure out what I want to do, and I still don't quite have it down, but I do know that I want to have these into the denim and facing in, and I will have another piece for the outside. And my latest thought has been to do something like this, where they're tucked in to the folds like this, but I still haven't figured it out. So I'm working on it, working on a design that I think I would like. My only problem I have is this guy is really tall. So he is very, very tall. This one is slightly taller than the rest of them, but not by much. And then I thought about maybe staggering them, so it would be a little bit smaller of a profile. But I want all of the tips, the ends have to face the same direction. So I couldn't do this, which would be the easiest, right? Because this one's blunt, but these are all, well, this one's blunt. These are all kind of pokey and sharp, and I don't want them facing. I want to be able to grab the handle, so it's got to be handle side up. So I can't do this. I think I'm just going to end up with laying them out kind of like this, or staggering. I don't know. This is the challenge right now. So I'm playing with that. Let me figure out what I'm going to do, and I will be back in a flash. This is my working theory right now. I've got them stacked past each other, and this way this allows this one to fit in behind this one, and it takes up a little bit less space. I'm not planning on putting any interfacing, so this is going to be pretty floppy, but that's okay. I don't plan on making it a roll either, so I won't be putting any ties, but I can always add a tie later if I want to. So what I've done here is I've measured up 3 inches and done a mountain fold, and honestly I just stuck all the tools in and did all the folding to see how it would fit, and then I went back to look at the measurements. But on this one, I'm going to go up 3 inches, make a mountain fold, and then I'm going to go down 3 inches, that same 3 inches, and make a valley fold here. So there's my mountain, there's my valley, and then I'm going to go up from the 3 inch here. I'm going to go 1, there's my valley fold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches up here. And then I think, let's see, I've gone up 6 inches and made a mountain fold, and then I went down to, oh, I messed it up. I went down 3 inches and made a valley fold. But I'm going to actually, I like this to be, I might want that to be a little bit deeper because that's that tall one. So I'm actually going to go down 3.5 inches and make that valley fold, because look at how much room I have here. So this last fold will be down 3.5 inches. And if to figure out if you don't want to do mountain valley, all you do is measure 3 inches, mark it, measure 3 inches and mark it, and then measure the 6 inches and mark it, and then measure the 3.5 inches and mark it. And then you can do your mountain valley, if that's easier. But that's what I'm looking at. I haven't figured out how I'm going to do the exterior yet, but that's where I'm at right now. And I also want to throw this in here and figure out where I want to store I found a little level when I was cleaning, and I want to put that in there somewhere too. So, okay, I'm gonna keep working on it. After I do my yard work, I'll be back in a flash. Okay, so I've been playing with my measurements still here. I changed this to 3.5, so up 3.5, down 3.5, up 6.5, and then down 3.5 for this last pocket, because I did want that little pocket to be a little longer. And I do like how deep this pocket is now at 3.5 instead of 3, but I think I'm gonna might be changing that. The reason I went 3.5 is because I'm counting in a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I will probably sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but 1/2 inch gives me that oops factor that I like to have, because when I don't, I usually end up editing something that ends up too tight. The problem is I don't like how little I have up here. And it's okay, but it doesn't really give me the flexibility that I want up here. And I may run with it. I have a couple solutions for it. I might just take my lining piece and make it a little bit longer so that I have a little bit of that up here, so it'll fold over. Or I might change this back here instead of being a 3.5 inch fold here, I might make it a 3-inch fold, and this will just be a little tall for it. I'm not sure I like that idea because I feel like it's going to fall out. And the other piece was when I did the 3.5 up and 3.5 down, I did that deliberately because I wanted to catch all of that into the seam, thinking that it would probably be more durable because all the weight is on this piece of fabric. So I thought, I kind of want to stitch through multiple layers of fabric here for that. And I still like that idea. So I could adjust it here and go 3.5 up and 3 down and only have this layer attached to my cover layer. So I want to play with that in my mind. And the reason the clips are all here is that's to mimic that 1/2 inch seam allowance here, so I could see where my tools would sit. And then I made sure they would bump into a clip right here so they wouldn't slide too far down. So I got to figure that out. Maybe I'll adjust by a 1/4 inch here, 1/4 inch there, or I mean, the more likely thing is I really do like this doubled up here. So the more likely thing is if I'm going to add, and I just don't like this, I'll add the backing piece that I'm going to put on this. I will make it taller, but oh, that might be a little hard to do. I could just also sew a piece on here, or I could just cut out another piece of fabric, because I limited myself to this piece because it was a scrap piece that I had already cut off. But I don't want to do that. I mean, I have more of this fabric, but I could just add a piece of that to the top too. But I don't want to do that either, because that would be, yeah, I could do it with a, if I did it, I would do it with like a flat felt kind of seam or a French seam, something really sturdy, because there's going to be a lot of pull right there if I have it bag shaped, which I haven't decided even how I'm going to close it yet. So, but I do think I want the option to hang it. So, all right, I've got some more thinking to do. Back in a flash. I'm trying out a new camera angle. I actually set the stand on top of the table. But I can't actually see what I'm doing, so hopefully I'll get this into the shot. So what I figured out, oh, light, maybe. What I figured out here is I readjusted, well, first of all, I went back and I unpinned everything, unclipped everything, and I drew my lines in. And my first thing here was I thought this was 13 because I just wrote down 13, but it was actually 12 3/4. So when I went to first draw, you would think that wouldn't matter. It does. When I first to draw these in, I was like, wait a minute. Well, the first thing I did was, 12 divided by 3, that's 3. Okay, clearly that's 9. But I didn't figure it out until I drew my first line in, so it's a little wet right here because I erased that line. So I didn't want to deal with trying to figure out, I mean, I drew my 1/2 inch seam allowances on the side, and that left me 11 3/4, and I'm like, oh, I'm not, it's like 3.9. I'm like, I don't want to try to figure out what that measurement is. So I went 3, I think I went 3 3/4. I forget now. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I went about 3 3/4, 3 3/4, and that left me with about 4 inches right here. So I just drew this line in from this side, this line in from this side, and then measured this to make sure that that was pretty close to the same, which is 4, because I knew I had some play in the pockets. And the reason I wanted to draw my lines in, and I did draw these, I would call them, see, this is going to be the top, so vertical lines, because this way is going to be horizontal. I've got it sideways. So vertical lines here, because I want to go ahead and pin my pockets and see how it fits, because I'd like to see if this is too short, because what I've done is adjusted to 3.5 up, 3.5 down, because I do want to keep all of that fabric here in the seam. And then I went 6.25 up, which that looks pretty decent. And then I went 3.25 down instead of 3.5. And I'm not liking this that much. So I probably will keep the 6.25 and go 3.5 again, because I just don't like that. But what I was curious to see was what it's going to be like when the seams are in place. So I did start putting pin markers on because I'm getting close to finalizing this design. And so I want to be a little bit more accurate with my measurements. So I'm going to go ahead and pin here and see if that one falls out, or if any of them fall out on it. These are all the taller tools on this row. And the last time I did this, I hadn't pinned that, and I picked it up, and of course with no seams here, they all just flopped right out because they're just two big pockets here. All right, let's see. So that flops forward way too much. I'm hoping I'm catching. I'm going to move this all around and see if I can catch it on the camera. Yeah, that flops way too much on the top. Don't like it at all. So I'm definitely going to readjust that. And let me pull these out and see if, because this is 3.5. Well, this is 3 technically, because my 3.5, and then I have my 1/2 inch seam. And also by putting these marks in, I could tell where the center of my pocket was going to be. I only had to put my clothes right there to prevent it from going down. So this is technically 3. So if I'm at 3, that's still pretty much going to flop. So my top pocket has to be deeper. All right, time to go play with that. Okay, the filming came out okay. That was good. But I don't like the measurements here. So when I have these dimensions, and this tool is all the way down into its pocket, it sticks up. It doesn't fall where I want it to fall. I want it to fall between the handles here. And when I do it this way, it falls under the handle here. So I definitely don't want this measurement. But what I'm looking at here is I might be able to cut some distance here. So this was 3.5. I think I can go shorter here and get this, maybe take off a 1/2 inch here, and then keep those, I'll go back to the other dimensions from up top. So I'm going to play with that and see if that works. I'm going to start confusing myself in a minute, so but we'll see how it goes. All right, let me try the next one. So this time I went 3 up, 3 down. I clipped my center here to keep my tools from sliding all the way back. Oops, right here, I got to do that one again. There, so they don't go all the way in, to mimic my seam allowance here generously. And then I have my pins in place. This one was not the one that was an issue the last time because it's so thin. It was this guy that's the issue, so let's see if that works. So he's still sticking up a little bit. Not too excited about that, but not as bad. There, and then here, let's stick this guy in place. He goes in pretty far too. So what I may end up having to do with, let's see, wow. Yeah, what I may end up having to do with this one and this one is actually stitch across here, put a seam in right here in this pocket and this pocket, so these don't drop down as far. Well, let's see how we're looking. Huh, okay. Yeah, that's not bad. They're not flopping forward. So, kind of don't mind this that much. So I don't know that I'm going to adjust that pocket at all. I think I'm going to leave that one because it's not hooking too much out, but because these are the bent needle nose pliers, they're sticking way up. And I do want them in this row because they're a little bit taller, if I remember correctly. Let's see. Yeah, they're taller. So I want them in my taller row. But what I might do is put a seam on this one. So stitch across, or kind of put a break in here. I don't want it to be taller than this guy here. So it would have to be somewhere in here, right here, which is, let's see, right there would have to be, let's go with right here. Oh, need a new pen. That's not working very well. Not sharp enough. Okay, let's make sure all this is adjusted right. That's on a fold. Put that back in. Okay, so let's put that guy back in. So not sticking out too far, that's good. And I think it's just because it's bent. It's gonna bug me. But I think I am gonna go ahead and put a little bit of a, might go a little further down. Let me see. Yeah, I could go a little further down. I can go about 1/2 inch down from here. So I'll just eyeball it right about here. So that back in place. Check that. And slide that in. Ugh, I don't like it. It sticks up too much. So I'll come back a little bit. There. Let's do that. With the tool in place, put it right there. Now let's see. Okay, I think that's as good as it's gonna get. Yeah, I think I like all these dimensions. I don't, okay, I'm a little bit too high. You know, I'm good here. I'm a little concerned. I mean, I have a, again, I'm only gonna go 1/4 inch. I'm not gonna go 1/2 inch, but I have the clearance. I just don't want the tools poking up above the bag. I think I'm gonna go with this. I still have no idea how I'm gonna put this together and make it into a bag, but this is gonna be the pocket structure. I'm gonna start stitching this together and make sure my measurements, I've got my measurements down, 3, 3, 6 1/4, and then 4 1/2. And then I need to notate how far down I'm gonna be stitching this one pocket. Not that I'm ever gonna make this again, but you know, it's good to have them down just in case. All right, I got still some more thinking to do. I gotta figure out how to make this now into a bag or some sort of thing. All right, I'm gonna go look, figure it out. Okay, so I did go ahead, I've marked where I'm gonna sew my, shorten this pocket here. So I'm gonna need to stitch across here. So I have to do the stitching in the right order. Now I don't like my pockets just to be kind of floppy or like nothing there. What I'm trying to say is I'm actually going to go ahead and before I do anything is top stitch across these folds to give it a nice finish here. So I have to do everything in the right order. So I do have all my pins in place. I will remove these pins here, which I've already taken this one out to do that marking. And carefully making sure everything stays lined up, I'm gonna go ahead and stitch, get this out of the way and top stitch here. And then I'm going to get this out of the way and top stitch here. And I will move my clips further over so I can get more out of the way so that my, because sometimes if your clip gets in the way, your stitching goes kind of waffly because your foot hits it. But I will move these down just a little bit so that I can top stitch that. And I want to try to keep it again in place. These pins I'm going to remove and put back. And then once I've got top stitch, I'm going to come and move all this, unclip all this out of the way and stitch this line. And then I will come back in and stitch these lines here. And I'm actually, this is a lot of bulk here. So I'm actually going to stitch the sides together here as well to try to press down the fabric. But I am going to go ahead and stitch here at 1/4 inch to press down these layers before I start adding more layers to it. That was I think it was a By Annie thing I learned when I was doing some binding stuff. They put in a lot of stitching to press down the fabric and it makes it easier to sew. And my machine I think will handle this just fine. I actually haven't done this much bulk in my machine because it's new. I haven't had a chance to try that yet, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. Wait, ooh, stop. I'm thinking that I might actually, my machine, and I haven't had a chance to play with it, and I want to play with the features on my machine, is it has a little bit of an embroidery feature. And I might try, I've got a piece of scrap here. I might try and see, I don't know if I need to put any interfacing on it because this is pretty thick. I might try, I want to try to put maybe the names of the tools. So I have 2 dikes or wire cutters. I have a flat nose plier, a needle nose plier, a bent needle nose plier, and an end cutter. And then I have the level, which I won't label. I was thinking about putting that, embroidering that on here in front of the pockets. That might be fun. So I'm gonna go figure that out first. I definitely have to do that before I get too far along. And I haven't tried that feature yet on this machine. My old machine, which was also FOF, had that feature. So I don't think it'll be too much different than that. But I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see if I can do it just on this, which actually will be a double layer. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna try playing with that. That sounds like fun. All right, back in a flash. Okay, ta-da! So this is what I did. I took painter's tape and I wrote down where each one of the tools was gonna go. And then I did go ahead and decide to put some embroidery on here on my machine as I was playing with it. And I did a piece here and played with it. I started with needle nose, and I started with a condensed stitch here. I don't know if you can see it through all these threads with this one, and then I went to a regular stitching here, and that way I could kind of tell where to put it, although I didn't center it quite right. Still playing with it, still learning it. And then I went to, I think, bent nose and played with that, and flat nose. I think maybe flat nose or bent nose, but I went through and I kind of stitched it on a practice piece, and then kind of went, okay. And in addition, I put with the tape, what I did once I wrote it on it, I lined it up at the top of the pocket, and then I could line my presser foot up along the bottom, and I could get them all across evenly. I did decide that I would not embroider on this pocket, just in case. I mean, I don't need 2 pairs of wire cutters. I might put something else in that pocket, right? So I went ahead and decided not to stitch here. On this one, I was fiddling with it, so it kind of came out a little messed up, but it's okay. You can still tell what it is. So let's see how it goes. Oh, and I also put a little piece of tape right here that says elastic, so that I think I'm going to stitch the elastic, or put a piece of elastic. Somehow, haven't figured out here, but I want to tuck this in. But I want to remind myself that I want some way to do this. Maybe I'll just do it on the side with a loop there and just tuck it. I haven't decided. Okay, put those in. My wire cutters here, the dikes. My needle nose go here. Flat nose go here. And those do slide all the way in because I didn't. On the bent nose, that's there. And that won't go all the way because I did stitch the seam here. And as you can see, on here I stitched 2 rows of stitching there. Let's put that back in. Back in. And end cutter. So there it is. Okay, ready? And they're not flopping forward, so not too bad. And I have plenty of room up here. It's kind of curling over because I've been moving and manipulating it so much. So I was excited about that. I think it's looking good. I like the embroidery on it, although I went back and forth and was like, I could just use the tape. And then if I don't want to use this for this particular purpose, I would not have my pockets labeled. But you know what? I could always just sew another one. So I did go ahead. I don't have that 1/2 inch seam in there, but I did stitch down here on the sides, on each side, and across the bottom here. There. And that's just to kind of flatten the seam out because there's so much in the seam at this point. That'll help with when I add the next layer, which I still haven't figured out yet. But the pocket structure is done, so I'm super excited about that. I can get these tools out of my way for a little while and move on from there, figuring out the rest of it. Oh, okay. Well, I gotta go pick out another piece of fabric. Maybe that will tell me what I want to do with it. I will be back in a flash. Okay, one thing I did forget to mention was I did want to reinforce right here where these pockets are attached. And the first thing I did was I tried to do this little V thing where I stitched V's here, and they just came out really horrible. So I ripped them out. I'm like, I just put, I think it's called a bar tack. I'm not really sure. You just stitch right here across the seam so that you can see it reinforces right there. So that's what I ended up doing here because it looks a lot better. It's also very subtle because I stitched over, this is my top stitch. So remember the top stitch you sew with all of this down. So when you go to put your bar tack in, you have every layer crossed, and then you stitch across your top stitch. So there, you're just stitching across the top stitch here, and so it's hardly noticeable, but it is in there where that'll be reinforcing that. So I do need to come over here. I haven't done it yet over here because I'm trying to figure out what my seam allowance is going to be, but I really could just come in here and bar tack on the edges here, and I might just go back and do that real quick right now on that so I don't forget, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to forget if I don't. So I'll stitch in here, and like it doesn't affect how these fit. Of course that's the needle nose, but because there's plenty of room here. So, and these are, you know, flexible. So I think I will go back and tack those. Let's see, flat nose, flat nose, flat nose, flat nose. And there, see, I have plenty of play there. There's the end cutter. Yeah, I have plenty of play, so I think I'm going to go ahead and tack at least to right here where I'm pretending my seam is going to be that 1/2 inch mark, and that should do me. Okay, all right, gotta go figure the rest out. I will be back in a flash. Okay, so honestly, I have no idea what I'm going to do with this, and I don't really want to keep going with it. I thought I could make it as part of a pouch, part of a bag, but I really don't want to. I don't have a lot of other tools to put in it. So right now, the only purpose I have for it is to store these guys. So I'm going to hold off on putting it into an actual bag because it's working just fine. What I have done is I added a piece to the back so that if I do add it to like a tote bag, this could be another pocket back here. But since I don't know what I would want to store in it, I don't want to keep going. And what I did for that was I cut the piece to fit, and then I stitched it on, flipped it over, pressed it, and then I double stitched the top stitch here. And then on the sides, what I've done on the bottom, what I did before I did all of that was I went ahead and zigzagged it because I knew I wouldn't be finishing the bottom. And I'm actually not finishing the sides either, but rather than adding a zigzag, because I had already done this one, to the sides as well, I wanted to practice doing another stitch on my machine, and I have a stitch, an overlock stitch, and I thought, oh, well, it says it will finish the edges and make a seam, so I'm going to try that stitch. So I actually did on the sides this overlocking stitch just to try it out. It was kind of fun. Nothing too exciting, but it was kind of fun. So I overlocked these two edges, and obviously need to use a lint roller, and I'm done with it for right now. So now it's set up so I can put it in a tote bag. I can create a tote bag that will fit this pocket, and it'll have the ability to have this will be the front portion and this will be the back portion. I'm not sure what I would do. If I was doing something like that, it would only be to put like papers or something back here, not other tools, I think. I don't know. I mean, I have the ability to do a whole bunch of stuff with it. And so the only doubtful thing here is whether or not, once I get it stitched in a bag, whether or not my elastic's going to be big enough, but it's okay. Right now, I think I'm done, and I have a place to store my tools safely. So there it is. I hope you like it. I hope that wherever and whenever you're at, you're having a great time, and thanks for watching.